Welcome to the PGCPS Canvas Gradebook, SpeedGrader, and Rubrics module presented by the Technology Training Team.
Okay, so one of the things that we're going to talk about today is the gradebook in Canvas. And you can get to the gradebook by coming on over to the left navigation and clicking on the grades link. Okay, and this is how the gradebook looks. As you'll notice, you have the student names in this first column here. You have all of the different assignments here. And then if we come all the way to the end, what is a really nice benefit of using Canvas is that we have a breakdown of these weighted grades right here at the end. Now, these weighted grades are not automatically pulled in at this time. You have to manually go in and enter those. You're going to base it on what is in AP 5121.1, 2, or 3, depending on your grade level. Okay, but once they're in there, you'll notice that there's a total category here or a column here, and it will calculate what the child's grade is in the class. So you want to make sure that those weighted grades are correct, and then you'll have a proper calculation. All right. So I'm going to come back over here to the beginning, and let's just talk about some of the ways that we can look at this information. Okay, so one of the things that we can do is we can look at, let's first talk about these assignment groups. So, we saw those categories that were weighted. We have those assignment groups listed right here, right? So you can filter by any of those assignment groups or show all of them at one time. It may be easier when you're grading to filter for one particular assignment group. Let's take assessments as an example. Okay. And for the assessments, if you'll notice, I have some grades that are in here already. And that's because these grades came from a self-graded quiz that I entered into Canvas. So I created a quiz, the student took the quiz, and the program graded, right? So one of my students got an 8, another got an 8, and one got a 7. So if I wanted to, maybe I had a bonus question or some type of extra credit. If I needed to modify that in any way, I could come here and just enter the new grade, and you'll see that it is adapted in the system. Additionally, we see that 2 students have not taken the quiz, right? So I know this particular student was absent with a lawful absence. I can come over here, click on that dash, and now either I could enter a grade, and you'll notice that I'm going to put a 0 in. The policy of years before the pandemic has been to enter a 0 when we don't have when the child has not been in class until they make up the work. This year was different. We'll see if it goes back to the old, but right now I'm going to enter a 0. But what's nice is I can now come over to this arrow and look over here. I have a navigation that pops up to the right, and I can come down and say that it's either late, missing, or excused. So if I say it's missing, I can come on down, and you see I did this a little earlier. I had a note here. Ronlyn had an early dismissal and needs to make up the work, so that you can see why that's missing, and the student and teacher know why that grade is what it is there. All right. Now I'm going to come over to another category, which is independent activities. All right. Now here you'll notice there's a combination of a grade and a symbol. So this particular assignment in independent activities has already been graded. That's why you see the 10 there. However, this one has not. So I'm going to now have to go in and look at what's been graded. This symbol here means that the child did turn in the work, so that you know it has been submitted, but you have not graded it yet. Okay, so to go into the grade, I'm going to click on the child's name, come on over here to grades in this pop-out box. This is basically individual information about her. So that's the name, grades, analytics, and some basic information. I'm going to click on grades. Okay, and now I can come on down to that assignment, which was a reflection. And you'll see that this T means that there's text here that I need to grade. So click on reflection. All right, and now I can see what that student put in. So this is her work, and now I want to read it and leave some feedback. So to grade it, I can come up here at the top, give her a 10, and then I can add a comment. So you did a wonderful job. Okay. Then not only can I type that in, but I also can click on media comment. All right. Okay. And either there's webcam, which is not on at the moment. So if I don't want to use webcam, I can come down to no video. All right. And start recording using the microphone. Tia, you did a wonderful job on this project. I appreciate you turning in your reflection on time. All right. Now I can either preview it or save it. I can even title it, but I'll just go ahead and click save with the timestamp. All right. And then the feedback is right on here at the top. Okay. All right, so let me show you just a few more things before we move on. One of those things is I'm going to go back to grades and show you some different ways to view this grade book. All right, so we talked about how we can arrange those different assignments there. One of them is this default order, which you can set in the settings. Right now I have that default to be the assignment name A through Z. You could do due date, you could do points, or you can arrange by module. And by module might be really helpful, especially in the classwork category, when you are linking those assignments to different units, right? So that's helpful as well. There are filters here, assignment groups and modules, which you'll see up here at the top. All right, so you can remove one of them or both. All right. And then statuses, that's what you saw me use with the one student who was missing an assignment. So you could assign different colors to these if different colors kind of make more sense for you. All right. All right. And lastly, we have a notes column, and you have the ability to either include or exclude the unpublished assignments. I always choose to exclude those so that the students and I are not confused seeing assignments in the grade book that are not ready to be graded yet. Okay. And you'll see the notes column is here. All right. So we've been looking at the grade book through the main view here. You can also look through the individual view. and it has more information, kind of like we saw from that one student. But let me just quickly go down and through. So we have, you can select a particular section, which is the sandbox that I'm using right now. All right, the due date is how it's sorted right now as the default, but you can choose any of the ways I just showed. You have options to view ungraded as 0, hide student names, show concluded enrollments. All of those are off for me right now, as not to confuse myself or my students, but I did want to show notes and student info. All right, so also I am coming on down here. You can download the current scores as a CSV. Right now, we are not uploading scores. If we get word later on in the school year that this feature has been turned on, we'll let you know. But as of now, we are going to not be able to upload those scores, but you can download them, and that might be easier for you to enter. Okay, so down here, when we get to this section where it says no student selected, we want to actually choose one of the students. All right, select an assignment. All right, and then we get specific analytics on that particular assignment. So we see the student's grade. You could excuse the student right here. Okay, you have details. All right, update the grade. You can look at the feedback. All right. And then we have kind of like how that student is doing, just like a summary of that student's grade right down here. Okay. And you can go ahead and see how that student did compared to other students in the class. Okay. All right, so that is Gradebook in a nutshell. I am going to go ahead and hand it over to my colleague who is now going to discuss SpeedGrader. SpeedGrader is another easier way to enter grades into the gradebook in Canvas.
Thank you so much, Kimberlyn. That gradebook is a really nice feature, but it's not the only way that we can do our grading in Canvas. So let's take a look at our SpeedGrader option. So I'm going to go to our assignments page, and here I have all of the different assignments listed out. Now, quizzes, I want you to keep in mind that when you build a quiz in Canvas, it is going to be set up for automatic grading, so you can still change those options. We are going to look at that, but grading does function slightly differently because it's set up to grade by itself, but you can use SpeedGrader as well. So that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to come to my central idea post test. And on the right-hand side up in this corner is where you'll notice SpeedGrader. So I'm going to select that. And the great thing about SpeedGrader is that it gives you all in one page here. You've got the student work on the left, and then you have your feedback on the right. So I can see what it is the students did. I can give direct feedback to the student using those same features that we looked at earlier. So I can add a personalized comment, I can attach a file, I can record a video comment, or I can have it type it out for me as I speak my comment. So for example, I might say, here I'll do the audio comment. Hi, Darlene. Please remember to reread if you're not sure of the answer. Look for clues in the text based on what the question is asking. Keep working, you're getting there. Okay, so it did not type in if I want periods or exclamation points, any kind of punctuation, those types of things. But for quick, easy feedback, I can use that. If I'm not happy with it, I don't have to submit it. I can delete it and type out whatever I want to say. Now, this is a quiz, so you'll notice that here on the right-hand side where it says grade out of 4, it's actually grayed out and I can't change it here. But in where I see the student work, if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, I have the option to change the scores here. So if I decide, hey, you know what, this one question for per se was an unfair question for some reason, then I can come in here and decide, okay, I'm going to give her 1 point for that question because it was unfair. And I have the option as well for this thing here that says fudge points, which would mean in the case of something like that, a question that was unfair or poorly worded and maybe students didn't interpret it the way that you meant it, you can actually give everybody credit by adjusting those points there, okay? So if I want to say, hey, that was an unfair question, I would just change the value and say, okay, everybody gets a point for that. You'll notice it changes her final score to 2 out of 4, and then I can select to update the score. And you see now it's updated over here that she's got 2 out of 4 on the quiz, okay? So let's talk a little bit about what you see at the top of the screen as well. You see how many you've graded. So for this assignment, I've graded all 5. The average score for the assignment here in this case, 1.2 out of 4, which is not great, but don't worry, this was just a testing scenario. And then you also see here, I'm looking at question 3 out of 5. No, what is the 3 out of 5? Oh, student 3 out of 5 students that I'm looking at, sorry. Next to that, you have the arrows to toggle between assignments. So when I look, you actually see I have several students that did not submit the assignment. So I had to say, hey, please turn this in, it's late. I can do that and send that communication to the students that they need to turn in the work, okay? So that is looking at a quiz, all right? I am going to go back to my assignments page and let's take a look at another example. So I am going to come to my sample assignment here, and this is using an external tool. Here I gave the students a Nearpod lesson. They had 3 attempts to submit the lesson, so they could submit, I could give them feedback, they could actually resubmit. Again, in the top right-hand corner, we're going to select SpeedGrader. And I can see here this student did not turn it in, so I'm going to give them a 0 for the meantime and say, please submit. This assignment is late. Okay, so now they will get the comment, and I'll go to navigate to the next student. Now here, this is a really great integration with Nearpod. You see, I don't have to go into Nearpod to see the student work. I can see it right here inside of Canvas. So I can go through here and see what did the student respond to the different slides that I had in there and how did they perform so that I can give them a grade. And you actually see here that the student sent me a video message back. Letting me know, hey, you know, thanks, I really tried. I was been working hard. You notice that they're nested, not nested, I'm sorry, they're in order of chronological order of as they're left. So I left the first comment, she responded, back and forth. You have that timestamp to see the full history of the conversation, okay, your communication with the student, all right? You also have here a little drop down. So if I didn't want to click arrow to arrow to arrow, I wanted to look at just a specific student's work, I can click the drop down arrow and select the one that I wanted to see, okay? All right, so Nearpod does have a really nice integration. Let's talk about another type of assignment. So in my class, I grade class discussions. And when you're setting up a discussion, you do have the option to grade it. But rather than grade every single individual discussion, I provided the students a rubric and said, look, each week, I'm going to give you an evaluation of your discussions, and that's going to be graded. So here I have the discussions along with the rubric here. So I let them know this isn't the place where they're doing the discussion, but I'm letting them know it is a graded assignment. It's graded work. So each week you'll come in here and I will give you that score. So again, I'm going to go ahead and select SpeedGrader. And now the disadvantages I don't see in this window, the students' discussions, the individual discussions. So I would need to look through the discussions, and it depends. This week, did I have one discussion? Did I have 3 discussions that I'm looking at and put the grade in this way? All right. So what you do is you'll notice that the rubric here is on the right, so I can click View Rubric, and then I can adjust this window so that I have a better view of my rubric. And now I can give my assessment for what the student did. I have the option to see my description of what do these things mean as far as the criteria in my rubric. I can give full points or no points just by clicking on each of the squares that I want to mark. But if I want to go somewhere in between, I don't want to give the full 3, maybe I'd like to give 2. I just pop into the box and put the 2, enter the 2 in there, okay? And then I can say, please leave my comment. Please be sure to check your spelling and punctuation. Maybe I want to say, great ideas this week, and then check. Okay, and then I submit, and boom. So there we go. Now I have graded Chris using that rubric. Okay. So very easy when you have the rubrics in there to go ahead. You'll notice here in this one, I actually left a comment inside of that criteria. So not a general overall comment, but I put the comment here inside of the right where the criteria is. And to do that, it's very easy. You'll notice here maybe on the right side, the little comment box underneath. So if you want to specify why they did not earn full points for a particular criteria, you can go ahead and do that here. So I'll just say Tuesday's discussion was late. And save, and that explains why they did not get the full marks, and you see the comment is in there. So I really like these features. There's some really cool features that come with SpeedGrader that I think make it really easy and quick for the teacher to go in and see the work and be able to give those scores. And so now when I go back to my grades page, you'll see that all of those scores have been put in there. Okay, so here was the quiz for Darlene. We gave her an additional point, so now she has 2 points, right? All of that information has been brought over to this grade book now. All right. So a lot of cool features with SpeedGrader, but that's not all. We are going to go into a bit more detail for you, talking specifically about rubrics, how to make them, how to find them, ones that are already out there. So for that, I'm going to pass it over to Chris.
Thank you, Gina. So, okay, we're going to, now that you know how to grade within a rubric, we're going to actually show you how to create that rubric within a given assignment. So one of the key things with Canvas is that in order for me to be able to add a rubric to an assignment, I must have created and saved that assignment first. So if you need help, you can refer to our video on creating and saving your assignment. Excuse me. But we're going to go into our saved assignment here. And you'll notice that I have this plus button that allows me to add a rubric. Now we'll start with talking about how to create a rubric from scratch. So I'm going to click the plus sign there in my assignment, and you'll notice that I get this sort of rubric control panel, for lack of a better term. I'm going to start by giving it a title. Okay. So that will name my rubric. Now you may notice this find a rubric over here. Once I've created a rubric and used it in at least one course, I'm able to pull in rubrics that I've already used. But because we're creating a rubric here just to start, we're going to begin with creating the rubric, like I mentioned, from scratch. So I have a couple of options here. At the bottom, I can decide whether or not I want my rubric to include freeform comments or if I want preset comments. If I click I'll write freeform comments, you'll notice that the ratings on my rubric actually go away and are replaced with this sort of placeholder that says I'll put in those freeform comments like you saw Gina demonstrate in the SpeedGrader. If I uncheck that, my regular ratings and criteria options come back. And we're going to go through the rest of these options as we go, but I just want to highlight those options for you where they're most appropriate. So we're going to start with our criteria. So I'm going to take the pencil and click the pencil here, and it's going to ask me for a description of that particular criteria. So because I am not the world's best typist, I'm going to use the copy and paste method, and it actually may be useful for you if you already have a created rubric. So here I already have a rubric that's done, and I have this attentiveness category. So this is just a rubric saved in my Google Drive. I am going to place that here in my description, and I just copied and pasted it, and I can put in more text if I want to. And I'm just going to make up a little longer description if I want one. Okay, and I can put in anything, and then I'm going to enter update criterion. All right, so that criterion is there. Now you'll see that, and I can click the pencil to go back and edit this as much as possible. But of course, like with any other rubric, we want ratings. Now you can see that I have the high points at one end and low points at the other end, but I only have 2 ratings. So when you look at the rubric that I already have, I have 4 different ratings here, and I want to make sure that all of those are included. So I'm going to come back on over, and I'm going to click this plus sign, and you'll notice that it's going to bring this pop-up screen that allows me to add a rating. So I do want a rating 3. I am going to want to fill this with other information, but for right now, I'm going to click update. Well, it's not going to let me do that. I'm going to enter my rating title. So I'm just going to go get that from my rubric. Okay. And notice that my points are there matching, and I can enter a description if I so decide. So I'm again going to go grab that from my already done rubric, which if you have rubrics that have been included in your curriculum documents or that are required by your particular curriculum and instruction department, copying and pasting is an easy way to get them over into Canvas. So now I've copied and pasted that information, and I'm going to click update rating. And you'll notice that that's here now. I can come to my 5 points and edit the pencil, which if you notice on my rubric, the top of my ratings is a 4. So I'm going to want to make sure that I note that and change it. So I'll start by clicking that title again, bring it over here. All right, I'm going to take that 4 out because it's going to be up here, and I'm going to enter a 4 for those points. And then I can take the rating description. Again, I just simply copy and paste and bring that over to my rating description box and click update rating. And I would just continue to keep going until I have all of the ratings in there that I want. When I'm ready to add a new criterion, I'll click this plus criterion button here. And I do have the option to duplicate or create a new criterion. So if I have a new criterion that's going to have the exact same sort of description here, or just something I could easily update along the way, I could certainly click duplicate and get that there and just edit it. But for right now, I'm going to click new criterion. All right, and I'm going to come back to my rubric again, and we're going to bring this over here, just like I did. And I'm going to go get the longer description if I wanted it, and I could bring it over, but I don't have that in this case. So I'll add create that criterion, and now you see it's there. Then I'm going to just come back and do the same thing again. For my ratings, I can come in and copy whatever I'd like, bring those descriptions in. Or again, remember, you could always type this from scratch if you need to. All right, but I have that information in there. And then I'm going to click Update Rating. Remember, I always click the pencil. If I decide that I don't want this, I just want to completely start over, I could certainly click the trash can. Okay, and just so you can see it one more time, if I want to edit my rating, I misclicked there. I want to edit my top score here. Remember, I changed that to 4 because that's what's on my particular rubric. I would copy and bring it over and paste again. All right, so I would just keep going with that until I'm done. All right, and I'm happy. Now, what you will notice is that Canvas is going to add up the total amount of points for your rubric. And that's important because it can come into play when you're about to grade. So one of the options that you'll see down here is use this rubric for assignment grading. If I want to use this for assignment grading with these points, I'm going to do so. All right, I can, or I may just be using my rubric for informational purposes. It all depends on your instructional goals and what your goals are for the assignment. So for this particular instance, I'm going to say that I do want to use this rubric for grading, and I'm going to click Create Rubric, assuming that I'm done. Now you'll notice that I get this nice pop-up window here that says leaving the assignment's total points at 0, which is what I entered when I created the assignment, and the rubric's total points at 8 will result in a maximum possible score of 800% for student submissions graded with the rubric. I want to make sure that those are in line because I don't want a student to have an 800% unless I'm giving some crazy extra credit. So I have the option to change to make the assignment, the rubric and the points align with each other, or I have the option to leave them differently. Now, in most cases, you're going to want to click change, in which case it will now make my assignment worth 8 points. So that's just something that you want to keep in mind. And you can see here that I have my 8 points listed at the top. If I decide that I want to edit this rubric at any point, I'm going to come back to the rubric, check out the pencil, and then I can go back to editing as I normally would. Now, to go back through the rest of our options here, maybe I'm just giving a rubric for informational purposes. I just want the students to know what I'm going to be looking at, but I'm going to use a different system of grading. I could click remove points from rubric, and then those points will go away, but the same rubric criterion and ratings will stay. If I uncheck that, I can come back to my other options. Don't post outcome results to Learning Mastery Gradebook. So again, if I've given this rubric for informational purposes, I don't have to post this to the gradebook. Maybe this was just an activity we were doing, and I wanted the students to know what I was sort of formatively assessing, but I'm not going to necessarily grade them. I could click that option. I also have this option to hide the score total for the assessment results if I don't want students to see that score right there, because I'm going to give it to them in a different way, or maybe on a feedback form in Google Docs or something of that nature. I could click that option and that points total will go away. So that is the basics of creating a rubric, okay, from scratch. When I'm happy with my edits, I can update that rubric and I'm good to go. Now, if I have another assignment, which I'm going to go back to my assignment screen, and I have another assignment here, all right, and I'm just going to click there, all right. Notice that I've put in 50 points for this assignment instead, all right, but I don't want to create that rubric again. I'm using the exact same rubric, right, that I used on the previous assignment, because maybe this is a repetitive assignment, but I don't want to have to create that entire rubric again. So this time I'm going to click Add Rubric, and I'm going to click Find a Rubric. Now you'll notice that my courses will pop up, and they will tell me here on this left side how many rubrics I have in each course. Okay, so then I can come over, and if I want that same rubric that I already did, I'm going to come to that course where I used it, and I notice that my rubric will pop up, and right there in that sort of light gray area, it'll show you how many criterion and how many possible points that you have. And you'll also get a preview of the rubric over here to the side. If I wanted to edit this rubric outside of an assignment, I could click Manage Rubrics and go there. All right, but for this purpose, I'm just pulling in this rubric already. I'm happy with it, so I'm going to click Use this rubric. All right, and notice now it will pull that into my assignment. I can then go click the pencil. All right, but you'll notice that it will tell me I cannot edit this rubric either because I don't have permission or because it's being used in more than one place. So if I did need to change or edit the rubric, I'm going to want to click my Find Rubric again to get it, and that's where I'll click my Manage the rubric or Manage Rubrics that will pop up in the top there in order to use it. Okay, so I've brought the rubric into my assignment. Now again, it's giving me the option to edit or change, and I can go forth from there, but I'm particularly happy with it, so I am going to click Update Rubric, and then that rubric will also come over to my assignment. Now, again, maybe you haven't created an assignment, but you know you want to edit a rubric that you already have. You can click this rubrics link over here to the side, and some pop-up help will come, but I'm just going to close that for now. And I can come here and click the rubric that I've been working with that's already within this course. I have the choice to delete it, okay? But again, I have this error that it has been, I cannot modify it if it's been used in more than one place. So you may want to think about creating your rubric ahead of time and making sure that you don't need to edit it if you're going to be using it more than one time, okay? Also, when I come back to my rubrics, again, I'm going to close it. Maybe I want to come up with a rubric ahead of time, but I don't necessarily want to create a full assignment first. I can click rubrics and create rubric as I just did, and then come in and create an entire rubric. And then I could use the Find Rubric option to pull that in to a given assignment. So you just want to keep your strategies in mind based, again, on whatever your instructional goals are. And that is the essence of rubrics. And I will now pass it over to my colleague to close us out. And I
Thank
think
you
I
very much.
remembered that I wasn't passing it over to anybody.
Nope, just close things out. Thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, please email t3@pgcps.org. If you have any questions regarding Canvas or this module in particular, Module 6, we'll be happy to assist you. So good luck.